Khaki pants and a polo shirt. Boy, I put up a fight. She said, son, one day you'll thank me for having God in your life. And yeah, I know she was right. Yeah, my mama was right, 'cause now I'm talking to Jesus. She got me talking to Jesus. She got me talking to Jesus. Yeah, my mama was right, 'cause now I'm talking to Jesus. Yeah, I love talking to Jesus. And I'll be talking to Jesus for the rest of my life. What a friend we have in Jesus. What a friend we have in Jesus. Don't you know? What a friend we have in Jesus. Oh, what a friend we have. What a friend we have in Jesus. What a friend we have in Jesus. What a friend we have in Jesus. Oh, I've got 3 of my own now, trying to raise them upright. My oldest is 15, and I remember what that was like. Trying to deal with the drama, trying to figure out the questions in life. And I've been looking for a way to show him how to make it all right. Then he walked in my room while I was saying my prayers the other night. He said, I'll come back later. I can tell you got a lot on your mind. I said, it's not an interruption. You couldn't have picked a better time. 'Cause I was just talking to Jesus. Come over and give it a try. We started talking to Jesus. We started talking to Jesus. We started talking to Jesus. Whoa. And now he's talking to Jesus. Thank God he's talking to Jesus. I hope he's talking to Jesus for the rest of his life. Yeah. What a friend we have in Jesus. What a friend we have in Jesus. What a friend we have in Jesus. Oh, what a friend we have. What a friend we have. Aren't you glad you have a friend? What a friend we have. Not more faithful, not more true. What a friend we have in Jesus. Oh, there's no wrong way to do it. There's no bad time to start. It don't have to sound pretty. Just tell them what's on your heart. 'Cause it's not a religion. 'Cause it's more like a friendship. So just talk to your Father like you are his kid. Just start talking to Jesus. Just start talking to Jesus. 'Cause you can talk to Jesus, or whenever you like. Just start talking to Jesus. Just start talking to Jesus. Just keep talking to Jesus for the rest of your life. We're going to start.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to those of you that are here taken the opportunity and the time to come on what was a somewhat snowy Essex morning and afternoon. Good to have you with us. And especially for those of you that are online, we want to say hello to you. We realize that in this season of Omicron and those kinds of things, that the vast majority of you will be watching us online while this streams, and we certainly want you to do that. We also want to remind you that if you have friends or family that are interested in these online sessions, that if they can't watch them live, that they can pick them up at any time they want from our webpage or our YouTube channel, that they will be there for you for the foreseeable future. So it doesn't have to be viewed today, it can be viewed at any time down the road. Also that we have 5 of these, and so one will build on the other, and we are looking forward to doing that and hopefully having the opportunity to minister to you in every possible way that we can in those 5 sessions and strengthen you and give you the opportunity just to be as whole and as healthy as you can, soul, spirit, and body. I want to thank our church leadership for giving us the opportunity to do this and to provide some of the inspiration for this, and we just say thank you to them and to our church family that supports us in this. We are so excited that we can open this not only to our church and our church community, but to those in Essex and Windsor County and beyond that. We've had opportunity to share this through some of our district networking as well, so we're hoping that all kinds of people take advantage of it in the days and weeks to come. I do want to welcome our first speaker, but before we do that, we're going to pray and just ask God's blessing on our evening. Father, we just thank you that you are a God that cares about each and every one of us, and you know that whether it's in this community or our province or this country or around the world, there's all kinds of people dealing with the issues of the pandemic, and they are unique and particular to every individual and every family, and we understand that. We pray that you would use these 5 sessions, the things that are said and done, that they would help us, Lord, not just cope, but thrive. And we are so thankful that we have a God that loves us and cares for us, and that we have people that love and care for us and are willing to take the time to share from their God-given wisdom and their experience, and we pray that it will be a blessing for each and every one. And we just thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. We do want to remind those of you that are following us online that if you let us know where you're watching from, we would appreciate that. You don't necessarily even have to give us your name, but that would be awesome too. First name, just say, I'm watching from here or I'm watching from there on the chat line. That would be awesome. It would just give us a little understanding of who's viewing and how we're doing with that. So at this time, I do want to thank Joy Presland for coming to be our first speaker, who will deal with the topic as it is there on the screen, soul, body, and spirit. And she will be setting the foundation for these 5 sessions and reminding us that we need the whole person ministered to, and that real health comes soul, spirit, and body. Joy has been a life coach for a number of years, has 35 years experience in working with people and helping people, and so we are very grateful to have Joy with us. Why don't you give her a hand as Joy comes? Thank you, Joy. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Felt coming down the aisle like the price was right. Well, we just want to welcome you here. I'm hearing a lot of echo. Okay. Well, I just want to welcome everybody here. Brent's already welcomed us, but I want to welcome you, and I want to welcome everybody that's online and those in-house. What a good night it's going to be. Technology is an amazing thing. We can have a few people here, and we can have everyone in the world zoned in here, and we can all be together. That's totally amazing. But I do want to thank Brent and the church, Pastor Brent, and the church for allowing this to happen. That is a great heart. He's got a great vision, I'm sure, that's been going on for some time. And then he invited a few of us leaders to get together to talk about the things that are happening in this world right now and how we need to face those things. And so we invited some people. Networking is so important, isn't it? And so especially during this time, we are all affected in so many different ways. We're facing relationship issues. We're facing much division like never before. And we're also facing information challenges, aren't we? Everybody's got a different opinion of what's going on, but we don't want to focus there tonight. But all of those issues are causing some emotional issues like panic, anxiety, depression, despair, all kinds of different things that are happening. And we haven't really known what to do with all that, have we? I know that I've asked my own questions. Now, to start off with, just tell you a little bit about myself. Yes, I'm a life coach, and have been working with youth and women and people in general for many years. But I first started off out of high school with early childhood education. Loved kids, and I worked with kids. So the way that I teach is not just by information. Information doesn't always change us, does it? Just taking more and more information doesn't really change us. But sometimes when we see a picture, I do well with pictures, when we see a symbol or a picture and you think about this teaching, when you go home, you're going to go, oh yes, and you're going to remember the picture, and then you'll be able to add the teaching, or if you take some notes, that will be very helpful. But I've had to live through this teaching for years, and I never really get over it. So this may be new to you. It may be something you already know, but you'll get a different perspective that you can add to your life. But we know that every teaching, it's not one size fits all, right? I could tell you, well, this is my personality, and so this is what you need to do. That's not going to work. One size doesn't fit all. Everybody has a different personality. Everybody has a different background, history, skills, abilities, the way they deal with things, the way they grew up. Everybody has, it's like all these puzzle pieces put together is your life. So the way I attack it, the way that I live my life may not fit you. So we're going to talk about some of those things. There are some common denominators in all of this. So as you listen, think about your own life, filter your own life through these common denominators, and then you can apply it in the way that you need it, and that will be our foundation for the next few weeks. I really hope that, we all learn different. So my style might be your way, might not be your way, but I would encourage you still, no matter what, to keep coming through the weeks, because I know that you're going to learn a lot. We've got some fantastic teachers that I'm sure will teach you in different ways. I was going to do it very professional, like a PowerPoint, but I figured, and I do use PowerPoint, but then I'd be running between there, and so I decided old-fashioned works well. So is everybody ready to get started? Okay. So let me have you have a little bit of participation here. Would you say, does everybody in the house here have a body? Are you sure? Okay. Okay. Does everybody have a brain? Now, no sarcastic comments, okay? We're just wondering. Everybody have a brain? Put up your hand if you have a brain. Okay. Okay. Does everybody have emotions? Okay. Some of us would, I grew up wishing I didn't have any and pretty suppressed my emotions because they just didn't work for me, but I had them anyway, okay? And so this teaching I had to work through several times. A lot of people have a lot of emotions. Some people want to pretend they don't have them, and some suppress them. We all deal with things differently. So we're going to use some word pictures that are going to help us with this information so that we can remember. Now, when you were born, you began to think because you had a brain. And we don't consciously think, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. We just start learning how to behave and what works for us. And so, this is my mouse wheel, but it kind of has a picture of how we begin to think. So, we have a trigger, or we have something happen in our life, and we jump on, say, a hamster wheel, and have you found yourself thinking over and over and over and over many different things, and then you get faster and faster and faster and faster, and you don't know how to get off, right? Except for, we don't just have one hamster wheel. We probably have thousands of thoughts going around and around and around and around and around. Now, as we grow and mature, sometimes we change our thinking, but sometimes we don't know how. Sometimes trauma does that. Different situations will do that. And so we get on our hamster wheel, our hundreds and thousands of hamster wheels, and we can't jump off. And that's part of what we want to talk about tonight. Now, does anybody know what this is? It's a railroad track. It's a train track. Okay, very good. We're off to a good start. Give the lady 100 points. Okay, so what this symbolizes is when we start thinking and thinking and thinking. Everybody probably knows that we have chemicals in our brain, right? In our body. And those chemicals, without getting too deep, the more that we think about things, it's like we get ruts in the chemicals. So if we have a thought that starts here, and we start spinning about that same thought in the same way, it's like a railroad track in our mind, in the chemicals of our mind. And so sometimes we can just know that our default is whatever happens, I'm going to be happy. So we kind of lay that track down, and no matter what happens, we just get happy. Sometimes we get triggered, and our first default is anger, and we lay that down. Now, the chemicals, we're created for those chemicals to balance. But sometimes when things happen in our life, they get out of balance, and we need some help to get them balanced. But we actually make a train track in the chemicals in our brain. Okay? So those are two things that we really want to remember. So this is the first part in our lesson. Everybody said that they had a body, right? So what is this? Can everybody see that? Yeah. What's the end? The caboose. Okay, so the caboose, we are going to call our body. We're talking about soul, body, and spirit, right? So we're going to call the caboose our body. Now, our body is created so miraculously. Our body is created that whenever there's a stimulation or something happening, our body follows whatever that is, okay? So I know I'm making this very simple, but what I'm going to do is teach all the pieces, then we're going to bring the whole thing together in the way that it works, okay? So our bodies are very intricately made, and it's made to follow whatever the stimulus is. Whatever is presenting itself, our body is going to react at it. Now, if I am walking through the forest and I see this little squiggly thing on the ground, my body's probably going to react. It's going to be like, ah, okay, or a little mouse. Some people would, if they saw a little mouse, their body reacts. Whatever's presented, whatever you see, whatever you hear, your body is automatically going to respond in one way or another. That's the way that we're made. So, where is my, okay. So our body, simply, we're just going to put, is created to follow. I hope you can see that.
I'm not used to it being some neat. Thank you.
Oh, believe me, I'm doing my best. It was created to follow what is leading. That will help with your notes. Okay? So if I see that stick on the ground, I might think it's something else. My body's going to react. We mentioned that. If I see a big brown bear, my body's going to react, and I'm going to feel like I need to do something. I'm probably going to feel panic or fear. If I see a baby deer, I might think, oh, isn't that nice? And this peace, comfortable feeling. Our body is amazing in the trillions of ways that it reacts to stimulation. So we need to look at also the soul. Now the soul, if I asked people, what does your soul do? A lot of people have heard that term, but it's like, what actually is the soul made up of? How would we explain that? Well, I'm glad you asked. So this is a car, right? It's one of the cars that holds things. We're going to start off with the soul has one part, and it's called the mind. Okay, now the mind is what processes our thoughts. Now, some people might think the brain and the mind is the same thing, but it's not. The brain is the physiological part of us. The mind is what processes our thoughts. Okay, see the difference? So, whenever your mind is working, it is telling you certain things. Sometimes it's truth and sometimes it's not. Sometimes a lot of our thoughts are from way back, even in our childhood, telling us who we are, telling us what we should think, telling us what we should do, and that's how our mind works. It processes our thoughts. And we have another car, okay? Our car is our will. Now, our will is what we make decisions with. Sometimes we we don't even think sometimes of what we want to do. It's just automatic. It's like jumping on this hamster wheel and just automatically think. Now, if I'm trying to get my point across, I don't say, okay, Joy, put your finger out here and make your point. I just automatically do it. We do automatic things all day long, but we have to choose certain things. I choose to exercise. I choose to put boundaries up with certain kinds of people. I choose to do the best things with my family. We're making choices every day without even thinking about it, right? Would you all say that you use your will every day? But sometimes we feel like we don't have the choice. We feel like our will has been taken away from us. Now, when we were little kids, we may have had people that were controlling us, taking away our choices, so we actually don't feel like we're free to make choices. It's kind of like driving down the road with your brakes on. It's like you can see the screech marks, you can smell the rubber, you can see the smoke. It's like driving with the brakes on. You don't have the power to make choices. But what we want to talk about is we actually can get this working again, where you can take the power back and make choices for yourself. We're going to bring all of this together in the end, okay? With our will, we choose, and sometimes we don't choose, our reactions. We know that there is fight. We can get out there and fight for things that we need or we want, or when something comes at us, we can fight. But some people do the flight thing. They run away. They get passive. They don't really know what to do. Or sometimes things happen and we just freeze. I was a freezer. Not a freezer, but I would freeze. So when things would happen, I just didn't know what to do, so I'd do nothing. And sometimes we procrastinate because we don't know what to do. And so I was raised, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. When I was little, for some reason, I was a pretty fearful kid. I had a lot of things going on in my life that I was just fearful, everything. I didn't think, I didn't choose to be fearful. That was just something that I got on the hamster wheel about, and everything just made me afraid. Didn't matter if it was truth or not, it was just the way that I reacted. So I would run away, and then I would freeze and do nothing. That was my story. And I have had to activate all of this on a continuous basis to get healthy and whole. So there's hope for everybody. But this is part of the soul, the way that we process, the way that we choose. And our last piece is our emotions. Now, we agreed that everybody has emotions, correct? Sometimes we wish that we didn't, but we do. Now, we could name a lot of emotions. Some people think, actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put here, the soul is our mind. It breaks it down into 3 pieces. Our mind, where we process thoughts. Our will, where we choose. And our emotions. Okay, we won't put that up yet. So our emotions, everybody has them. We think that they are in 2 camps. We think there's good emotions and we think there's bad emotions. But the truth about it is, there's no such thing as a bad emotion. We were created, now people go, oh my goodness, well, I can think of a few. But the truth is, we were created with a myriad of emotions, but they're not bad because God created all of them. Now, let me explain that. If I had a hot stove here and I touched the stove, all of a sudden in my body, that stimulus is going to say, get your hand off, and my nerves are going to react and it's going to hurt. When I put my hand there, the indication says get off or there's going to be a consequence, right? If I leave it, I'm going to have the marks to show it. Emotions are the same way. If something happens to me and all of a sudden I feel angry, that's not a bad emotion. It's just an indicator. Pay attention. Something's happening. You got to know what's going on. And so all of a sudden I go, oh, I need to pay attention. So it's not a bad emotion that I felt that. It's what I'm going to do with it after that that is going to help me or hurt me. That's when I think people get the connotation it's bad. It's what we do with it once the indicator comes and we make a choice with what we're going to do with that emotion. Okay? Now, some people lose those feelings, lose the choice, and they can't process it, especially when trauma happens. And that's when we need the extra help of a professional or a friend, depending on, how fast we're going and we can't get off and we can't process it by ourselves. And there's no shame in that. I think we've all in this room needed extra help at certain times. But this is our soul. The way we process, the way we choose, and how we feel. Now, we know that, or maybe we don't know, but a lot of times they say 80% of illnesses come from things either in our childhood or things that have been left undealt with, things that we have not been able to process or make choices, or emotional things that we've been through. And so that is going to affect our body. That's a really high percentage. Now, sometimes it is biological, something genetic going on, but a lot of times it's emotionally based. And so we need to look at this part of the train, or our soul. Now, does anybody in here know somebody really led by their emotions? Don't yell out their name or anything, but really. but really highly emotion. It's like you don't know how they're going to be the next day. They're, they could be really, really happy because the sun is shining, and then the next day they're really grumpy because somebody stepped on their cat or, whatever. But they're really, you don't know how they're going to be the next day because they're just really led by their emotions, okay? We all know somebody like that, right? But when we're led by our emotions and we can't process and we can't make decisions about that, would you say that life is like a roller coaster? One way it's up, one way it's down. Sometimes it is chemical imbalance, things that are railroaded rut that is a little past their choice. But it's like a roller coaster. That's hard on your body too. It really is hard because the chemicals are up and down and too much and too little, and we don't know how to navigate through that. But if we're led by these three things, we can say that's a rocky road. Now, this train all by itself, it's really not going anywhere, is it? It's just sitting there. Looks pretty, and it looks pretty in the yard, but it really doesn't go anywhere. So what are we missing? Pardon? Well, yes, we know who the conductor is, but we have one piece to go before that. Your grandson would love this. Okay, what is this? That is the engine. And what do we have in an engine? You're stuck on that conductor thing, aren't you? Okay, what does the engine have that we need to pull this train? Power, right? I'm a power kind of person. So this part that we're missing is our spirit. Okay? Now, I am sure that if I asked you what the spirit is, I would get a lot of different answers here and online. Spirit's an interesting part in this whole thing. Now, there's a lot of people that don't even believe in the spirit, and they say, well, I can process things, I can choose. Lots of emotions that, I'm living a good life, and my body, I'm healthy. That's good. There's a lot of people that can manage life. But I want to talk about the spirit in the way that I know the spirit. Now, one very interesting fact is, you can Google this to prove my point. Under a microscope, when the sperm and the egg come together, there's actually a spark that they can see under the microscope. Isn't that amazing? Totally amazing. You can Google it, and you can actually see the picture of the spark that comes in. Now, it is believed that at that point, the spirit of a person is when it comes in, right at that spark. Believe it or not, that's what the scientists are believing. Even ones that didn't believe in the spirit before are believing after they see this picture. Now, we believe that our spirit is eternal. Now, I probably would get a lot of different thoughts on what the spirit is and how they, navigate that. But I believe that the spirit is the power that helps all of this manage well. Now, if I put this right here, it's still going to work, right? But it's not the way that it was designed to be the most effective. Okay? If like I said before, if this is leading and my body follows, it's not going to work as well as it was intended to work. So we still have that roller coaster ride going up and down different ways every day. But if we move this engine where it's supposed to be, things begin to line up with the Spirit's power I can better process my thoughts. I can choose better. My emotions come into line, and my body will come into alignment with this alignment. Now, if the train's not working right, something's wrong, what would we do if we were in the yard? Let's go back to the train model thing. So if it wasn't working right, what would I do? I would call the person who created the train or knew how to fix it, right? Or I would get the manual out and I would read how I need to fix this to find out and troubleshoot what the problem is. Well, we're born with a spirit, but if something is broken in my processing or my choosing or my emotions or my body, what do? I believe that the person who created me, I need to go back to the manual. This is my manual. Now, some people say, oh, I didn't know this was all going to be religious. No, I'm not talking about religion, because religion has a lot of rules and regulations, and we go, oh, God's somewhere out there. Somewhere that spirit thing is all out there. But if something's not working in our life, we can go back to the manual, to our Creator, and find out what we need to do to make sure that our spirit is out front and leading. We're all born with a spirit, but in the times we mature, and I just want to put this out, as I speak, I'm just putting out an invitation. If you want to know more about that, I'm sure that you can call the church office. You can call Brent, talk to him. He can put you in touch with somebody to give you more information. He can, some of the other speakers, I'm sure, will be available to help you. But it is the most important thing to know. We're born with the Spirit, but our choice with what we do with the Spirit is going to give us the power to bring things into alignment. And I just want to read a couple things in the manual that will help you to know how this whole thing works. It says that if you love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, your mind, and your strength, this is the first commandment, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And those who are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. And His Spirit and our spirit will connect, and we will know that we are His. Now that's just different than just having a spirit. Born with a spirit, we come into a place where we choose to allow the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, to have the power in our lives to help along with this. That doesn't negate having to go to a specialist. I've been there. I've had to get some extra help to know how this works and how I need to go and live life. But it says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind, so that we can think the way that we need to think. And where the Spirit is, there is freedom. And also, the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, lives within us. And that's a whole different life than just having born with the Spirit, because we all will choose our eternity, right? So this is the manual. If you don't know how to deal with all these things, always go to the manual, to the one who has created you. We are made so wonderful. I don't know if you've ever seen, from the point of conception, all the trillions of things that have to happen when a little baby is created. But it starts from the very beginning. And when we learn how to mature and go through the stages of development, and we learn to grow and to change in a proper way, we're very blessed. But a lot of teachings We haven't had a lot of teachings, some of us, when we were young, to know how to navigate our spirit, our soul, and our body. But it all is made to work and connect really well. So I'm just going to put the spirit is our power source. And we do get to choose. Sometimes we need help to choose, but we don't want to be allowing our emotions to run us, right? We want to have it in alignment that's really going to work well, so that we can actually balance our chemicals, and we can also learn to slow these wheels down and think differently. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it there. I think I've put some really, I've laid a good train track, I should say, down to be able to explain what the body does. The body never acts on its own. It has to have a stimulation, and it will follow what's leading. If it's your emotions, it's going to follow. If it's your spirit, the power source, your body's going to come into alignment with that and be healthy and whole. That's what our manual says. Our soul, our mind, our will, and emotions, as we process our thoughts and we choose correctly, our emotions are going to fall into line with that. And we want to make sure that our spirit is the power source. Okay? So we'll just leave it there, and if you have any questions, you can navigate that.
Yes, so we want to invite those that are online, those that are following us online. If you do have a question, you can put that on the chat line. We have somebody monitoring that. That will be emailed to me, and I will be happy to ask our speaker. But first of all, we're going to just start in the house. And if I can just ask the first one, if you wouldn't mind. I'm looking at the train, and it's connecting with me and people I know, where I see the mind, will, and the emotion, and people being troubled and fearful and upset and just kind of overwhelmed, especially what's going on right now with the pandemic the last couple of years. And the news that's coming every day, it seems to always be compounded. Is it sometimes wise just to turn things off and not listen to things? Is that helpful? Like, is that coping, or is that all that is? Like, are we just trying to pretend something's not going on when it is going on? Or, is it better just to kind of face everything with the Spirit giving us the power to overcome this stuff? What's your opinion on that?
I have a couple of different thoughts about that, and I don't think denial is a good thing. We need to deal with truth as it is, but right now we have this group saying this is truth, group is saying it's truth. And when we start to feel buried, we do need to shut it off. If we think that misinformation is coming in, that we need to shut it off. We need to know our limits as well. Now, I'll just speak specifically for myself. For 20 years, I found what's happening in the world very interesting. Okay, so in traveling through all that information, I have. It's not a shock to me what's happening right now. But for some that have not studied anything at all, it's not a bad thing. It's just this is hitting them square in the face, and they don't know how to process it. I say you need to know your limits and shut it off. It's important to have a community of small people that you can just go to and talk through some issues, but you have to know when enough is enough, and everybody's level of taking it in is going to be very different. So we should never compare or compete or put down anybody that has just said, I've just had enough. That's not denial, but we do need to process what we're taking in and hear both sides. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, it does answer the question, Joy. I'm just you know, I don't want to be the kind of person that runs from reality, but as you said, I don't want to be the person that is overwhelmed and flooded to the point where I can't concentrate, I can't focus, I do feel kind of overwhelmed, or, you know, as we're going to get into the next number of weeks, there's high levels of anxiety, perhaps even depression, those kinds of things, where, you know, the middle of the train is taking over, and I'm feeling a lot in my body too. At the Caboose, I'm feeling all of that physically, you know, fatigue and those kinds of things, or whatever, right?
But I think that when we get to that place where we start feeling things that are extreme, that's when we need to reach out for help. There's no shame in getting help and calling somebody and saying, hey, if you have an expertise in this, I need some help. When you start feeling that is the time, not when you're in despair and kind of feeling like you're falling off the edge. Really reach out to somebody when you start feeling those feelings of extreme.
We have a couple of microphones at the front. If you have a question, we're going to ask you to go to the microphone. It's already turned on. You don't need to go check 1, 2, but use the microphone that's closest to your aisle. This way, yeah, the microphone's right here at the front. That way those online can follow us as well. We want to make sure that everybody can hear what's going on.
I want to know, is there a way to stay off the hamster wheel altogether? To not jump on it?
I believe that from the get-go, when we come out of our womb and we all have a brain, we automatically start to think in certain ways, but we're not conscious of that. So, you know, the second that your mother sticks a spoon of peas, you go, ew, I don't like that. Well, when it's repetitive, you just know that you don't like it, right? But if you get hurt in a certain way, then you start thinking in a certain way, and those hamster wheels, thinking things over and over and over, doesn't mean it's always bad, but you learn how to relate, you learn how to live by repetitive behavior. And so some of these are good and some of these are not so good that we might have to change, but everybody has millions of hamster wheels in their mind because we are repetitive thinkers. And when you keep rehearsing, say somebody did something to you and you rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse, that's a hamster wheel that gets ingrained into the way that you need to behave and act and react.
I never thought of it as being a good thing. I always think it's a negative thing, but it can be a good thing.
It can be a good thing, yeah. When you learn to decide how you're going to feel, I don't mean denial, but how you're going to feel in the midst of things. As I got over a lot of my issues in life, I decided I'm going to live up to my name. Most of my years I didn't like my name, but I decided one day I was going to learn how to live up to my name. So the more that I repeated a good behavior, that actually was a good thing. And now I can live up to my name.
Thank you.
Someone else? Anybody else? I don't see any online, so we're clear online, so you guys have got the floor. Or you're going to get a lot of me. Yeah, go ahead.
Joy, why does my body react faster now than it ever did? Like, to what I'm thinking. It almost, the thought isn't even there yet, and I'm already heart racing kind of thing. Well, why does that happen now?
Well, we have a specialist in the house. She might want to answer that a little more than I do. But my thought to that is, so you're saying you're not even thinking?
Yeah, I don't
and
even
your
think
body's
I'm
reacting
thinking.
to something?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I could say to you, hey, what are you thinking? And you go, oh, nothing.
Yeah.
We're always thinking. We're not aware of what we're always thinking, but we are thinking. Even in the back of our mind, those hamster wheels are always working. So it may be a subconscious thing, maybe something that you're not even aware of going on around you, or it could be something from the past and your body's just reacting. I think we get better at being aware of what we're thinking, and then when we're aware of what we are thinking, we actually can be conscious, and I'm sure they'll cover this in the weeks to come, but we can actually slow our body down and teach it to respond in different ways, so that these hamster wheels slow down, and we can actually intentionally jump off or change directions or teach ourselves a different way. Actually, that's a good point, Sharon, because they say it takes, 30, 60, 90 days to change a habit. And we have to give ourselves permission, that time to change. We can't just say to our body, just stop it.
Yeah. That's what I do. I like to tell myself, just stop it.
Yeah, or we just say, well, I'm just going to choose and I'm just going to stop it. Or we tell other people, well, just stop it. Well, we have to give the grace and the permission. We have to give ourselves permission to take the time, because it's not just to stop the action. Sometimes we can, but sometimes if there's chemicals involved of too much extreme highs and lows, we can't just stop it. We can't just decide that our chemicals are going to change. It takes time, it takes intentionality to learn what's going on. And if we've had 40, 50, 60 years of doing it one way, it's pretty cemented. So it's going to take the time and being intentional to change and to get aware of what we're thinking that our body is reacting to.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody want to add anything to that? I think there was a question over here.
Yeah, come to the mic.
Yes, Joy. Mine's a little different. Mine's different medications that you might take will cause you to maybe have anger issues and different things like that. How do you control that? How can you help yourself control those things? Like, say, for instance, like Keppra is like an epilepsy medication that will cause you to have flare-ups with anger and things. How do you subdue those kind of things?
Well,
Can you give me some kind of example how you can help control the anger inside, or help, and that kind of thing when you take those kind of medications? Because medications, different kinds of medications will cause different side effects, so to say. How can you alter that or help yourself to, control those kind of, side effects of different medications to cause different emotions?
well, first of all, I am a life coach.
Okay.
I'm not a certified, physician
Okay.
in any way. I don't personally deal with medication. I'm very careful where my boundary lines are
Okay.
in medication. But what I do say is always be connected to a medical professional, because they can monitor where you're at, and as well as the medication is helping balancing the chemicals
Right.
and getting you on the right medication, they can be working with you on this part.
Right.
But me personally, I never deal with medication.
Okay.
That's not my expertise. But some people that are with professionals, I can help with this part of it.
Oh, okay.
But
That
I'm
maybe-
very careful with that boundary
I think maybe
line.
you would have some kind of idea when it came to the emotional part of that. Maybe you had some kind of ideas how to help with that kind of idea too, maybe.
Yeah, I think if you come the next few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to hear from some medical professionals that deal with medication that would be able to answer that question. So make sure that you come back.
Oh,
'cause
I will.
They're really good.
Definitely,
at
thank
that
you.
kind of thing. I just stick within my boundary lines
Okay.
of the emotional part of it.
Okay, thanks, Joy.
Okay? But I'm sure you'll get your answer.
Thank you for the shameless promotion of what's, pardon me, thank you for the shameless promotion about what's to come. Appreciate that. Any other questions? I do appreciate, we do have a number of people that are going to be sharing in the weeks to come as we deal with anxiety, depression, and, in conflict, and then self-care, that are doctors and are trained professionals in some of these areas that might be helpful to you. And so we do encourage you to come back. But I do appreciate, Joy, not stepping into territory that isn't your expertise. We respect that so very, very much. If I could just ask one more question. Our time is coming to an end. about the engine that powers us. Maybe some insight into people that feel like, I'm God-centered. I believe in the God of the Bible. I understand there's a Holy Spirit living inside of me. But I just feel like everything behind me is overwhelming me, and I don't feel like the Spirit is really the engine that is empowering me. Do you have some insight how we might do better allowing the Spirit to have that kind of control?
Well, a lot of times I'll ask people, what kind of faith do they have? What is their background in faith? Sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, a religion with a bunch of rules and regulations, with a God that's way out there, and we just think he's way out there. Then I ask, do you want to have the adventure? And people go, an adventure with God? The difference between religion and relationship is miles apart. When I've invited my Creator to live inside of me and to be able to teach me his ways, that begins a relationship where I can have a conversation with him. Some people might think, really? Like, that's a little weird. But it's true. He is the one who created me, so he knows how I work best. So I need to know what kind of relationship people have. Is it the religion or is it the relationship? It doesn't mean that this perfectly right away comes in line. It just means that we may need help with it. But that's why small community in churches or in small communities of believers, that we can talk these things out. How do I get this into alignment? How do I get a personal relationship? How do I get an adventure with a living God? I didn't even know that he was living. I didn't even know I could talk to him. I didn't even know, that I could go to the manual and even find out about emotions. That's the difference. And so it doesn't mean automatically this is all going to come into line. It just means that we learn how it operates, how we were created, how to bring it into alignment, and the help that we need to bring that about. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Anybody else? You're really going to leave it up to me, aren't you? So, final one. We are sponsoring these wellness workshops based on the premise that the pandemic has really caused a lot of trouble, a lot of problems. Again, without any of the politics, because we're not interested in that. But some people who feel that they're people of faith, Christian faith, or perhaps even another faith, have found that this has really put them upside down. That life has been pretty smooth and they've dealt with the regular stuff, and then all of a sudden this thing comes along and it's like, oh my, I don't know if I'm dealing with this the way I should be. I see myself as a mature believer, and I don't know if I'm managing or handling this right. Has there been something wrong with us, or is there something new with what's going on right now?
New with?
Just that things seem to be so much worse day to day than they've ever been.
Well, I think that is true. I don't think we've been through a global thing like this before. There's a lot of shaking going on. I know that in my own belief system, there's been some shaking going on about what I believe. How firm am I in this, in my faith? And how am I processing those things? I've got to be asking myself those questions. And it has shaken us all, I believe. And there's been some dismantling of some of the belief systems. Now, I know that there's a lot of people railing at God because he could stop this. But that's the hard part, because we can get angry at God because it's happening and he's not stopping it. But also, he is our creator. But because he gave us free choice to live as we do, and the chaos that is happening in the world and the choices that are being made, with that free choice, there are some things, as people have chosen, that have gone south. We tend to want to blame God because we think he can stop it, but if he stopped everything, we would be like puppets, right? We would be all controlled by God. But he says, I am giving you free choice to do what you choose to do, and there are some people that get hurt, and that's left with the rest of the people trying to process what's being happened to them. So we have to go back and really find out what we believe about our Creator and about God. And dig a little bit deeper if we really don't understand what's happening or what we believe. There is a shaking going on. I did read the end of the book, and we can't stop a lot of stuff that's going on. We just need to know how to manage it ourselves as we go through it, spirit, soul, and body. It's a good book. It's got a lot of stuff in it. A lot of people think it's old, 2,000 years old. What am I going to use it? But I'm telling you, it's got some good stuff, and it helps you to manage yourself in an amazing, amazing way. And there's no end to the depth of it. I read something different every time I get into it, and I could have read it 100 times. But every time that stuff's happening in the world, I read it differently. It's amazing, amazing, exciting book.
Thank you, Joy. I think that answers it well. If there's nobody else, we are going to draw to a conclusion. We want to say thank you to those of you that have joined us online. Let me take this off. Make it a little more personal. We want to thank those of you that have joined us online. We've appreciated that. We have really appreciated, Joy, you sharing with us today and getting the train rolling, so to speak. Pardon the pun. And we are looking forward to having the rest of our speakers with us. Chris Campo will be with us next week, and we'll be dealing with the issue of anxiety, I believe, if I recall correctly. And so he is a therapist and will be with us sharing about that. We know in the pandemic that's one of the big things. There is a level of anxiety that probably has surpassed what you're used to normally, coming from all kinds of sources that are affecting us, mind, soul, body, and spirit. And so he will continue to take us a little bit further down the tracks. And I would like for you just to give a expression of thanks to Joy for sharing with us today. Appreciate that, Joy. So join us next week, 7 o'clock, Monday nights, and in person if you can. But if you can't, we're there for you online as well. God bless and have a great evening.